It is possible to also author and publish your custom equipment into your Content Center, but please bear in mind that this is only going to be useful if the piece of equipment is never going to change. It's going into your assemblies as is. If you need to be able to change it from one job to the next job, it's probably better to leave this outside of your Content Center so you can copy from one job to the next job and make each instance of this assembly unique. But if you know for a fact that this assembly is never going to change, that this pump that I have on the screen, for example, is going to stay as is every single time I use it, there's no reason not to author it and publish it into your Content Center. However, Content Center does not allow the authoring and publishing of assemblies, so that means we need to turn this into a part. How do you do that? It's very simple, actually. We use a command called derive. So we have our assembly here, and it's all assembled and constrained and ready to go, and it's saved. So we're going to start a new part file. Use my standard template. And with the part file open, on the 3D Model tab, we'll select the Derive tool. And then from our file search, we will find that part, that assembly that we want to turn into a part. And there's my pump assembly. So I'm going to select that. And it's going to bring in a reference of on any of the components of that assembly that we tell it to. You have several different options. You can derive it as a single solid body, merging in the seams, as a single solid body, keeping the seams between planar faces. We can maintain each part as a solid body, or we can derive it with composite features. These are all solids though, so we don't need to worry about on that. So you also can set several different options using the color overrides, reduced memory mode. You can remove internal voids. Let's see, you can select a specific view representation, position representation, or level of detail. And you can also set whether or not you want certain parts or certain features of parts to be included. For the purpose of this, we're going to just select the entire thing, and we're going to say a single body with merged seams. That's just a very simple version of this. So I'm going to hit the OK button. And now the next step is going to be very important, especially if you are using Vault content. It's important in either case, but it is especially true if you're using Vault content. Okay, you can see it has created the component. It's a single component based on that assembly. It is a part file. Your solids are listed underneath here. Now that important step that I was mentioning earlier is that if you're going to be unless you are going to have the assembly in reach at all times, I recommend breaking the link to the base component. And this is especially true if you're sure again that this part is never going to change. You don't even need the base component anymore. And if your inventor and Content Center cannot find that base component, if that assembly is not somewhere within your search paths, if for example you have put it into the vault and deleted the local copies, you're going to confuse Inventor, and it's going to be looking for these lost references because it thinks it needs to have the parent file of this derived part always right there alongside of it. As long as this part is never going to change, there's no reason that you need that parent assembly to be there. So you can break the link to that parent assembly, and before you put it into your Content Center, I strongly recommend you do that. Once you have this as a part, simply save it. Now this is a neat little trick that I like to do. I set this to all files, and I need to go to my working files folder, and I find the assembly that I saved it from and grab that so that it populates the file name into the file name box, and then I set it back to part. That saves me having to type all of this all over again, but I'm going to save the same thing as an IPT file instead of an IAM file. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then authoring it is going to be just as simple as authoring any other part. With the part saved, we're going to go to the Manage tab and grab the tube and pipe authoring tool, just like we have on all of our other parts. and we're going to set this type as other. You're going to set the connections to flanged, and you can decide which one is your connection 1 and which one is your connection 2. I'm going to select the suction as number 1, and you have to enter the size by hand because this is not an eye part and you're not going to have a table for it. So we're going to set that to 4 inch, and we're going to grab that diameter as our point and as our axis, and it looks like the axis is going in, so we will flip that to make sure it's coming out of the part as always. And I put the wrong size in there. That's a 6 inch suction. So now on number 2, let's set that to flanged. This will be the outlet, and the outlet is 4 inch, so we will leave that 4 in there. And for our connection, we will select that, and for our axis, the same diameter, and again it put the arrow pointing in, so we will flip that to make sure. You can always double check your axes to make sure they're pointing out just by selecting the connection number, and it'll highlight the axis for you. Once you're satisfied that everything is set, the sizes are correct, the type is correct, your end treatments are correct, you're ready to go. Just hit OK. You should get the publish successful, and you're ready to go and put it into your content center. Remember that your folders need to be created in the content center beforehand, so please make sure you have a category set up for this type of equipment before you try publishing it, or you're going to have to stop and start over. So that's it.